Welcome back to another episode of Mindful Drawing. This is the 27th iteration of these practices. Each week is an opportunity to create something new and explore a new entry point into connecting our body and our mind through this act of drawing. This week, we'll look at fibers, these flowing strands that help us move our body, muscles, as we do an internal body meditation with an external expression of what we're seeing in our mind and feeling through our hands to the page. I'm working with a bit of an adjusted setup this week, with some of the videos a little bit blurry, grainy, but it should give a pretty good idea of some of the directions that the drawing can go in as you explore it both for a listening creative practice as well as some technique you might want to explore if you find it interesting. I'm going to jump over the warm-up exercise. Today in the live session we just did an open draw while people got ready to engage with the practice. So feel free to pause the video and take a few minutes just to doodle some things on a page, explore pressure between bubbles or the expansion of lines flowing outwards, anything to get your hands and eyes ready to engage with the practice. Then we'll go ahead and jump right in and see those flowing strands merge across the paper. And see where it goes. Building some of the thoughts of last week in this kind of tension and release we can build up in the drawing and bringing that inwards to bring some internal attention to the muscles that help us move and relax and also engage and work throughout the day through the body, and seeing if we can bring the attention there into the drawing and maybe express a little bit of what in our minds we picture as the functioning and form figure of those muscles. For me, it starts with long fibers. So to begin by drawing long and flowing fibers across a good swath of the page, trying to establish a nice, smooth, even flow to the movement of the pen, to take advantage of that setup that I gave myself, warming up there with the drawing while feeling mobile, smooth, suppleness from the inspiration of the muscle. These long bands made up of many fibers connect across our joints, keep us flexible and active, that respond and challenge them with tension, or engage them in contraction, help us interact with the materials, the world around us. Tiny muscles that might form locally in our fingers, gently pull or loosen our joints, our knuckles, letting them put minute pressure onto this pen or pencil, down to the tip of the finger, built up of pads of tissue and small fibers to help us have the fine motor control that connects all the way back up from that finger into the hand, into the longer control fibers in our metacarpals that branch out from the wrist, control the gentle pressures of our grip, also cause us to press so hard sometimes if we're trying to look for control in that grip. As we bring our attention, those kind of mid-control muscles in the hand, to let them be soft, just enough compression to hold on to that pencil and guide it flow on the page, but not so much that we get jitteriness, stutters, trying to hold on just a bit too hard, push pencil where we think it ought to go, just letting the hand be an extension of this less animate object, feeling how those muscles engage, shift around, sometimes holding it in the palm as I'm doing this action where I draw a stroke near me to me. Other times, feel them in the outer edges as I draw away from where I'm at. We can look to the larger groups, muscles, the forearm, where they provide the motion, kind of gross motion to our hand and our wrist. Several tight bands woven around the bone. Let it flex forward and back, and just a little bit left and right, so that we can articulate into many scenarios. This first tool, find the articulated hands and fingers. This led us to the creation of these many other tools that we have the privilege and advantage to use. This pen or a pencil, or even stick some charcoal on the end. It's enabled us to express our observations, imaginations through drawing many thousands of years. If we really breathe into some of these long flowing curves, we can feel all those little muscles adjust gradually as I go from being close to myself to extending the arm and having to make small adjustments to the grip and orientation of the pen in order to keep it making its mark on the page. Keep it connected and moving with my breath. One in-breath as I set myself, and an out as I move long and sinuous across the page. I'm just kind of moving my initial starting point around wherever it feels right, where my eye is attracted to an absence or collection of density. I can move my attention also from my forearm up across my elbow into my upper arm, triceps engaging as I press out to change things up. So draw in, feel the bicep, the front of the arm beginning to contract lightly, or just hold steady to transform this moving, moving organic arm into a steady, flexible tool, an extension out from my body as a guide for this writing or drawing implements. and moving back and forth from the different directions. And finding a consistent speed that can connect to the in and out breath. Through these strands, building up layers, these fibrous shapes. Thickening to where they must resist most expansion from tension, thinning to where the material becomes dense, strong to attach. If we continue the observation from the upper arm into the shoulder, for me that's a place where a lot of this action of emotion is extending from. Much of the lower parts are fine-tuning, gently holding the pencil, adjusting the pressure of the grip. This upper part supports the whole lever of the arm, extends it out the shoulder, the bicep and tricep, with the brachial muscles of the elbow area and the forearm, to hands and fingers. All working together in these chains, constantly shifting tension and compression, constantly adjusting expansion and contraction. But most of the time it takes place separate from our attention. Thankfully, it'd be a lot of work to always consciously make sure every little muscle, nerve response was doing its job. But when we're practicing, training, we can bring in our focus to a place of engagement, transport our mind internally to the site with a specific sensation or action. It's engaging with these fibers. If you're exercising physically, it might be pushing them to their limits, extending and contracting them until they begin to tear a little bit. For the fibers that have lost their cohesion, areas that have not healed, begin to unravel a bit. That's why we start to get sore. We push it a little too hard, but bringing that attention in there, specific actions. You can hopefully begin to recognize when that's happening and just allow enough to encourage those fibers to strengthen, to react to a stress, to be in a better position to support our action, whether that's athletic or just moving around in our day-to-day, keeping the muscles of the upper back engaged and supple so they can support the neck, the head, and the shoulders. Enable so much of our creative work, whether it's on a computer or physical medium. Engage the lower back, mid-back to hold us in a chair or in our standing, to allow us to, with less discomfort, lean over a table to focus on our work and hopefully get the reactions of the body out of mind. A little attention and conscious development, we can let mind go from those places more easily, or move it into other places. You have a strong density, probably developing somewhere on the page. Becomes a canvas now, place of expansion and contraction, some very large, expressive, flowing across the page, perhaps others needing to fill in, densify within the gaps. Using local tightnesses, local floods. Flood the muscles with oxygen and blood. They form a little stronger, and we can begin to do that with awareness, bringing fine control to the attention of how the body is engaging. So, connections, cross joints, certain motions or patterns. Bringing a little bit of heat there so the whole chain can work together more smoothly. As I have many paths to follow, I have the rhythm here, kind of oscillating out along a curve and back along its partner, the reciprocal side, and the expansion and contraction to provide a nice rhythm that's taking me a little bit out of my head into just a motion, just an oscillation out and out and in. And you might find emotion from it. It's engaging, helping you to detach a bit from the mind, from the focus. It's a chance to connect that with the breath. You might slow it down just a bit. Breathe in, out, breathe out on in. Continue that tension. Expanding outwards, relaxing inward. After all the internal focus on muscles, this return to our breath in action with the drawing, can I let them just sink into relaxation, to drop back with autonomic control, to relax, a little bit of hard work, extra attention, engagement, working on the nerves, maybe some fatigue, an opportunity for greater relaxation. that the drawing has developed a strong amount of density. Taking the next few minutes to look for places to fill in little zones with smaller expressions of the stranding, folding muscle fibers. Or perhaps there's a smaller drawing extending some out, layering in larger arcs and flows, letting the mood that you've been cultivating over the course of this 20 minutes or so really extend out and become an outlet for any tension that might be held back, any uncertainty of what the drawing might be. Just sink into the motion. Enhance the suppleness of the body and the mind together. Things that always crosses my mind and brings me a bit of gratitude with these shorter drawing exercises that aren't really focused on an outcome, just the action is a reminder and reflection on some of the tools we use, and considering the wonderful ability of something like an eraser pencil to be able to fix little errors or mistakes in a presentation, representational drawing, especially in our technical field and in architecture. Sometimes you need to clean things up a little bit, erase some marks that might mean something in a building and so on that you don't want them to. But it can be very hard training for many of our younger students, and I think for anybody to let go of that ability to erase, undo as we work more on the computer, and instead to work through, to draw through it. These small exercises, let me practice that, make me feel that I don't have to stop my flow to correct something that might look or feel like a mistake at first. In my experience, most of them vanish into the complexity of a project or a drawing, and just a few that lie on the edge or in prominent positions require a little touch-up at the end. So, keeping ourselves in flow, drawing, having these techniques that we could deploy to get us into that flow, connecting with our breath and our body, can be very powerful and creative, expressing our ideas if we're not interrupted by small, inconsequential things. Thank you all for drawing with me. I hope you've had a good practice, that your muscles and arms and body are both relaxed and prepared to engage with the day. Maybe get out there for a good walk or a nice workout and use the other side, this expression of our flowing fibers. As always, thank you and have a wonderful week. Draw well.